Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Andrea Mendez Barrutia, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the Hispanic Collaborative. And happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Welcome to the Bank Roadshow. We appreciate you being here. And for anyone who might be calling in and who received the email with the attached deck, please let me know that you still need it and I can send it to you. So thanks to all who are joining us again as returning attendees, and thank you to all who are joining us for the first time. I want to just remind everyone that the purpose of the monthly Bank Roadshow series is to support Milwaukee's bank financial and frontline entrepreneur support community with in-depth information on the entrepreneurial ecosystem, programs, and services in order to strengthen our community's existing and budding entrepreneurs. So this month's presentation will cover the City of Milwaukee commercial corridors. And I want to thank Nathaniel Martinez for joining us today. And with that, I'll hand it over to him and then we'll open it up to some Q&A.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. And buenas tardes todos. Nathaniel Martinez with the Department of City Development's Commercial Corridor team. So excited to present these resources to you. These are 4 businesses as well as commercial properties in the city of Milwaukee. And before we jump in, just a friendly reminder to everybody, the U.S. Census 2020 is coming up towards the deadline. So really want to encourage people, especially if you live in the city of Milwaukee, to fill out the census by September 30th. It affects resources that are directed to cities and states. So it's very important that we're all doing that and reminding all our friends and family to do so as well. So getting into commercial corridors. So why does the Department of City Development have a commercial corridor team? So corridors are a big part of the development of cities. A lot of times these commercial corridors are the ways that we get from one neighborhood to another or from our residents to work. So they really provide a window into the neighborhoods in which they reside. Not only that, but where you live, depending on the services and products by the businesses that are offered in your area, really can enhance the quality of life. And then as it relates to your business clients, commercial corridors are a key area where there's opportunities for businesses, for small business to grow, for entrepreneurship, and hopefully as they grow, create job opportunities for people in the city. So the goal of our programs is really to enhance the corridors. It's not a grant program where we just provide everybody a grant. It's really to incentivize enhancements that are going to be good for the neighborhood, as well as really elevate the perception. As you're driving through areas and businesses, the appearance can really affect your perception of the neighborhood. So we really want to incentivize ones that really elevate the design in the neighborhood and really create a better perception. So we focus on commercial corridors, which are much more visible thoroughfares. A goal is to remove the blight in areas, so really kind of addressing properties that are bringing down the perceptions of the area, and also really promote a pedestrian-friendly environment. So we want to see storefronts that are open up and activated. And the hope is that as these visible improvements are made, that it's going to have a ripple effect where surrounding businesses are really going to feel a need to up their game and invest in their property to really bring up the entire corridor in the neighborhood. And another goal too, we're helping businesses to establish in these neighborhoods, so promoting economic development in neighborhoods throughout the city. So this is just a quick rundown of the 4 programs that we offer throughout the city. We have a signage grant, a facade grant, a white box grant, and a retail investment fund grant. And I'll get into the particulars of those, but it's 4 main programs. I want to let people know that we have bilingual staff too. So if you have clients that need somebody that can assist them through the process in Spanish, there's myself as well as one of my colleagues that speak Spanish that can assist them through the process. And it's also free to apply to these programs. So there is not a fee for a business to submit an application. Our staff can help walk them through the process. So you may have people out there that may charge a fee for doing that. That's something that they can come directly to us and we can explain the process to them free of cost. So the first program is the signage grant program. What it covers is going to be 50% of eligible expenses. The project must be at least $2,000, and the limit on this program is going to be $2,500. We don't allow for internally lit box signs, which I'll give you an illustration about that. But just wanted to start off by highlighting one of the ones that we did. It's for Flippin' Styles. It's a Latino-owned business on the south side. They have a barber shop as well as a salon. And originally they came to us with a different design than what you see here. So, you know, as many of you may know in banking, a no isn't a permanent no, it's just a no, not right now. So if you have a client that applies for our programs, they're denied, they always have the opportunity to come back with a new design that really meets higher standards that not only help to promote the business, but the neighborhood as well. So what you saw in this one is they did a nice little design with hanging signs where they have a barbershop and a salon. They use the scissors to promote the salon and the straight blade for the barbershop, which I thought was a really cool way to utilize signage to as a functional thing too, to direct people to the right spot. As far as signage goes, there's a lot of options that people have. So I just wanted to make that clear that they don't have to do just one type of sign. They have some options as long as it's high quality design. So here what you see with Dorcia, those are channel letters. They can be illuminated or they can just be like this as well. Awnings are another eligible type of sign. And the one that will depend on the permitting and zoning in the area will be the monument sign. So we don't do a lot of these, but it is a sign type that we do incentivize to really get people to do and consider better design quality and materials. So, you know, where you might see in some areas where there's just a pole with a sign on top, we want to incentivize by directing people to really think about landscaping and how the sign is designed to really create something that's going to look nice for the neighborhood. We haven't had really any with neon, but that's one that's eligible as well. Blade signs or hanging signs, which you saw a little bit earlier, and also custom signs as long as they're getting the proper permitting. Transfer Pizza, they did this one where they created they etched their letters into kind of an awning band that went around the building, had some lighting on the inside. So, you know, there's a lot of flexibility in what we'll approve, just as long as it meets permitting and zoning. And the one that we don't incentivize in any case will be the internally lit box sign. So as you can see from this, you know, if a business goes out of business, they tend to deteriorate pretty rapidly. It's not the best quality or look. So again, these programs are to help incentivize people with nice visual improvements that are going to look good for their business as well as the neighborhood. Another example of a bicycle company that we assisted, they did a blade sign as well as ones that went on their awnings. Now this wasn't included, the little mural, but this is an example or an illustration of the grant. So it comes in the form of a reimbursement. At that point, the business, if the business wants to pay down their financing, so if they took a loan to invest in this project, that's something that can assist them in their credit by paying down their debt, or they can also just, you know, invest in other things in the business, whether it be marketing, staffing, et cetera. Once they get the reimbursement, it's up to them how they determine to use it for the best use of their business. Facade grant is one that I really like. I think it tends to be one of our more transformative programs to really help with the exterior improvements to the building. So it covers 50% of the eligible cost. The minimum project, again, has to be $2,000, and we can go up to $5,000 per eligible facade. If you have a building that's on a corner where there's two main streets, like a National and 6th Street, they may be eligible for more than one facade grant, depending on the work that they're doing, as well as, you know, whether or not they're commercial corridors. We can cover windows, doors, awnings, major facade alterations. And if it's part of a larger project, they can include lighting, landscaping, and decorative fencing. The key thing with this is there's got to be the visible improvement. If it's things that are more maintenance, such as repainting, tuck pointing, things like that, if that's all they're doing, it's not likely to be approved. But again, the goal is to really open up these buildings. So this building on National Avenue, when you look at what it used to look like and what it looks like now, just think of the way that changes the perception of the neighborhood, as well as, you know, if I'm walking down the street, I'm walking past this building where there's a lot of visibility, people can see me, there's going to be a better sense of safety, not only from the visibility, but also just, you know, how I interpret the storefront the way it is. And this is an example that you saw earlier. So really what you're noting in this one is you have a building with some nice kind of historic architecture. The changes are opening it up, but also in a way that's respectful of the architecture of the building. It's not just they're doing, you know, modern designs, but something that really fits with the character of the building and really opens it up again. So moving into the inside of a building, we have the white box grant. This is something that a commercial property owner, if they're looking to enhance their vacant and a space that's really kind of run down. It can help them to do really basic improvements to hopefully attract a new tenant. As I mentioned earlier, the business can apply as well, so it depends on the project, you know, if the business or the property owner wants to apply. This covers 50% of eligible improvements. It's limited to $10 per square foot, and the limit goes up to $25,000. Now, what can be included? As I mentioned earlier, it's for basic improvements. It can be ceiling, base flooring, carpentry, the rough carpentry, drywall, electric, plumbing, and HVAC. One thing which we'll get to a little bit later is the Retail Investment Fund grant, which overlaps a little bit. So they have to decide whether they'd want to go with that or the White Box grant. But all the other grants can be combined with each other. So this is an example to really show you kind of what it's geared towards. It's the basic improvements that's going to get it ready for a tenant to make the further build out and the finishes. So this was on Brady Street, the new Glorioso's catering space. This is another one, 219 South 2nd Street, where you can see, again, just basic improvements where eventually somebody can come in and do the further build out. Now, the last one that we have is the Retail Investment Fund grant. This one covers 20% of eligible expenses, so it's a little bit lower than the other ones, but it includes a lot more that is eligible. So beyond White Box, it can also include the build out, architecture and engineering, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The other thing to note with this one is that for every $5,000 in reimbursement that a person gets, they have to create one full-time or full-time equivalent position for those reimbursements. So the other thing with that, they have to be City of Milwaukee residents and on the job for 45 days. So between RIF and White Box, I mean, there's different options for the interior build out that really they want to consider the specifics of the program before determining whether they want to go White Box or RIF. Because of the job creation component, this is where a lot of businesses are going to be going after the RIF, whereas typically the landlords or the property owner is going to go for the White Box. This is a nice example, a business that I really enjoyed working with, 4076 West Fond du Lac Avenue. The owners are from Mexico, and the story behind this one is the owner of the business was looking to retire, basically sold the business to the workers who are the current owners, and we worked with them to do an expansion of the business. So they did a facade grant to really enhance the look of the building, but then also utilize the RIF for some improvements to the inside, as well as getting new equipment to create jobs for their laundry services. And this is another example of one that really shows kind of how it can be utilized and the impact that it can have. So this was a Fuel Cafe on South 5th Street. This was over a $2 million project, but we were able to get the max $50,000 grant for the RIF. They created dozens of jobs and really created a very exciting restaurant for South 5th Street that attracted a lot of people and created a lot of jobs on South 5th Street. So some general notes about the programs now that I've gone over the 4 ones that we offer. These grants are all reimbursements, so a business is going to need funding upfront to complete the project. When they've completed it and submitted all the proper documentation, which is proof of payment and invoices, they get the grant as a reimbursement in the form of a check. Another important thing is that they're going to want to reach out to our staff early to understand the programs and also to get their application in. If they're doing work or they're investing or making expenses prior to the application being approved by our committee, that's not going to be eligible for the reimbursement. So they may be sacrificing some money that they could be getting back through the reimbursement. And the last thing is just, you know, in general for businesses, especially in the city of Milwaukee, making sure that permits are being pulled, making sure that things meet zoning. I've seen businesses, they put up a sign and then they find out that it doesn't meet code. So either they have to go through a variance process, or they may have to take down the sign, which at the end of the day is going to be a loss of money. So really important that encouraging businesses that if they're not pulling the permits, that they're making sure that their contractors are doing that before they're starting the work, just to make sure that it all meets city code. And as for the application, I mentioned before, our staff can help walk people through this and assist them in gathering the appropriate materials, but they have to complete an application form, which is about 2 pages to give us information on who's applying for it, the details of the project, consent from the property owner if they're not the owner. That way we know that they have consent to do the changes. What you see right here are some illustrations that people have submitted for past projects. So this is to really show people that a good 2D rendering is perfectly fine for our committee. Actually, in some cases, it's better because they can tell better what's going to be the results of the project. The goal of this is for our committee to really understand what it's going to look like after they've made the improvements. So 2D elevations are great. If they have 3D renderings, you know, that's nice too, but we don't want people to invest hundreds, if not thousands, into that. We really want to make sure that we just have a good understanding of what the result of the project is going to be. In addition to that, we require 2 competitive proposals from licensed and bonded contractors. This is going to give them an opportunity to shop prices just to make sure contractors are charging fair prices. But as it relates to who they want to work with, we'll do our formula based on the lower of the 2 quotes. But if they want to work with the contractor that provided a higher quote or the contractor that provided a lower quote, they have the opportunity to work with either of them as long as they were included in the application. Now we'll have staff that'll come out as part of the process. We'll talk to them about their project. Sometimes we'll make suggestions on, you know, other improvements that they can make that would play better with the committee, and really to understand the context of these projects, how they're going to impact the neighborhood, you know, what's the current condition, to really do our best to work with the applicant to make the best case possible as it goes before our committee. And then last thing we'll do too is we'll look for code violations and if the building's current on taxes, because that can impact their eligibility as well. The last thing that we'll require from them is a W-9 form. So the purpose of the form is for issuance of the reimbursement. It also allows us to encumber funds. So if they do get an application, we can hold those city budget funds so that they're there when they're ready to apply for their reimbursement. And then what's not eligible, so if a property is behind on taxes or has code violations, the grants can't be used to address code violations that are already in existence. If it's in litigation or receivership, or if it's been condemned. With the religious groups, it's really properties that are exempt from taxes. This is from the city budget, so a property has to be contributing through property taxes to be eligible, as well as it has to be a for-profit business that's using it. And if a building is exclusively residential, we don't do those. There's programs for residential properties, whereas our programs are for small businesses. And then, as I mentioned earlier, nonprofit agencies are ineligible. We also do not allow for schools or daycares, currency exchanges such as cash checking or auto loans, taverns and liquor stores are not eligible, as well as gun shops, pawn shops, and cash for gold businesses. So for additional information online, you can go to milwaukee.gov/DCD. I have an arrow pointing to where you can find the Business Toolbox tab, and that's where you can pull information on these programs. You can get the applications directly from the internet, or you can call our facade grant hotline and schedule a time to talk to one of our staff. We can, again, send you the forms and walk you through the programs as well and answer any questions that you may have. So this is an important screen to go ahead and grab. If you missed anything, you can always contact our hotline and staff for any questions that you may have. And just wanted to provide some examples, specifically because this is a Hispanic collaborative on Hispanic businesses that have been successful in getting through our program. I know from my experience, there's a lot of skepticism when you're offering a grant. You know, is this real? What's the catch? So just to really show businesses that have taken advantage of these programs, because we really want to help small businesses, especially in the neighborhoods. We want everybody to take advantage of these programs, and just really want to encourage businesses that, you know, if they're nervous, if they have any questions, to reach out to our staff, but also to look at the ones that have come before them as well. So this is a nice little story. This is really to show the range of projects. We deal with small businesses as well as, you know, mid to larger businesses, but just want to let them know there's no project too small that we won't consider. So this one on the left is Imagen Beauty Salon. You can see what it looked like before when you look at the top image and what it looks like now. So, you know, again, it's a small project, but it makes a big difference on when you're driving by and you see the changes in this building. And the thing I like about the story is, as I talked earlier about the ripple effect, this business invested in her salon and made these changes. One of the shop owners not too far away came into her building, you know, remarked on the changes, and she mentioned our grant program. So through that, we were able to get a referral from Imagen to El Rancho, and he was able to successfully get through the program as well. So I think it helps when people see other businesses have gone through this, that they've gotten the funding, and gotten the approval and made it through. I think, again, it's more important. It's important that these stories are being told and shared so that people are applying for these programs, because again, this is open to everybody, and businesses, should be taking advantage of these. One that I really enjoyed working with too, El Señorial. So if you're from Milwaukee or visiting Milwaukee, this is one of the premier Mexican restaurants in the neighborhood. If you're into margaritas or parrilladas, they do a phenomenal job with these. This business owner was operating out of this space that you see in the top left corner. He had gotten many people inquiring, well, why don't you just move to a bigger location? But he said, this neighborhood is the one that supported my business. It makes sense for me to stay. This is where my customers are. So eventually he was able to buy the building next door, which you see in the top right corner. And this is a great example of a facade project. He married the two buildings to expand his kitchen, to expand his dining space. He did it in a way that opened up the building, but also made it look like these two buildings had always been a part of each other as well. So that was exciting. And then he used to park his catering vehicles right on the side of the building. So, this creates hazards for pedestrians or potential where somebody could get struck. What he did was added a patio there. So as you can see, it's safer, it's more pedestrian friendly, it's more inviting, and better activated for the neighborhood. Triciclo Peru was another simple one where basically we had the owner of the building. He applied for facade grant and white box grant incentives, and then the business themselves, they applied for the signage. So between the two of them, they were able to negotiate better lease pricing through those grant incentives to help lower the cost for the property owner of making these investments. And now, if you've never had really good empanadas, this is a great spot to go. They also do great pisco sours. So hopefully by the end of the presentation, you're hungry and going out to support these small businesses. Another great one that's out there, actually on the north side of Milwaukee. Mr. Home Improvement. So this is one where we assisted a contracting business. They purchased a city-owned property, and through the White Box and Facade Grant program, we're able to renovate that to make a really nice office where they can invite clients to do their business. Another one of my favorites, La Sierrita. This is on South 13th Street. There was a dive bar, which you can see from the photos. I'm not sure too many bars with interior motorcycle parking, but a pretty messed up property that, again, had parking on the corner, pedestrian hazards there. What they did, they extended the building in order to put in a commercial kitchen. When they opened, they had a ton of people that came out and supported the business, a great dining room area, as well as an exterior patio, which now with COVID, with social distancing, we're seeing as a real benefit to businesses that are looking for ways where they have extra space to host their customers in a way that helps with social distancing. And the part that I really liked about this one is the owner of this business was actually operating a food truck that was right across the street for 8 to 10 years, and eventually had an opportunity to buy this property, invested over $250,000 into it, and we were able to assist them through our facade and our white box grant program. So again, we work from small to medium businesses, and again, encouraging as much as possible to have businesses apply. One of the more recent ones that's pretty exciting too is Zócalo. This is one on South 6th Street where you had basically a parking lot, an empty lot, and a small tavern. The business owner created what's a food truck park. So the middle is used as kind of a tavern and event space. They've created permanent stalls for food trucks to set up shop and test their business. And they've also created an incubator food truck where they're providing opportunities for small businesses. So this one went through the Retail Investment Fund program, an over $2 million project, created over 10 full-time equivalent jobs, and we were able to maximize the reimbursement to them for the $50,000. And this has been a great business for the city of Milwaukee, a community gathering space, a great opportunity for small business and entrepreneurship. They found ways to weather the storm through COVID, still a challenge for them as well as all other businesses, but they're really making a great effort to adjust and adapt to COVID, and another one that I would definitely recommend people check out. The last one, this really gets into the transformation of the corridors through these programs. So what you see at the top is pretty much a half a block of South Cesar Chavez Drive, whose properties are owned by the El Rey family. We worked with them to do a facade grant where they invested over $200,000 into these 5 buildings. We extended it because there's multiple buildings, multiple businesses, so they were able to get a $20,000 facade grant, but you look at the night and day transformation, what this does for improving and enhancing the look of the buildings, the consistency in the signage, really elevating the look and, removing clutter and creating something that has a nice look to it and really kind of maintains that activation of the street by having those open storefronts. One other thing that the commercial corridor team does is we work with the city's business improvement districts. So per capita, the city of Milwaukee is in the top 5 of number of business improvement districts. And what you see in the middle is this map where you have the diagonal line shaded is where there's business improvement districts covered throughout the city of Milwaukee. So the city of Milwaukee has a lot of these. These are community-led efforts where property owners agree to assess themselves an additional tax. And what they do is they work together to put those funds together and utilize them in a way that's going to benefit the district, not only for the property owners, but also to really encourage small business. So I just wanted to highlight a couple, again, because this is for the Hispanic Collaborative. So where some of the business improvement districts where we have a high concentration of Hispanic businesses or where there's proximity to the Hispanic community. So a little bit more on bids, what a lot of them will invest their funds in. Some of them do streetscape enhancements. So that could be in the form of kiosks, neighborhood signage that really help to brand an area and create a sense of place. Some of them will use it for marketing initiatives. So that could be anything from websites to banners. It could be big events that help draw people to the area. So you see an example with the Brady Street Festival, but there's also in Chavez Drive, they do what's called a ciclovia, where they'll shut down the streets for people to ride bikes and for small vendors to come and sell their stuff. Some of them will do grants to small businesses, provide technical assistance in the form of workshops. Some of them will focus on security as well as graffiti. And then some of them have done real estate development in the past. So it's not too common, but it's an example of where the tool can be very adaptive to the needs of the community. So in the 3rd Ward, they had parking issues, and what they were able to do is develop parking ramps that provide parking for people that want to shop in the third Ward, but also for employees that work there. And over the years, as the district's grown, that's actually become a source of revenue where they're able to invest in other activities that are going to enhance their district through those redevelopments. So starting off just, by order of number, Mitchell Street is one where it used to be it's still considered the second downtown. You have a lot of small shop spaces, so a lot of opportunities for small businesses to find a storefront where they can sell, and it's a very dense neighborhood, one of the most dense in the entire state, so a lot of customers in the surrounding area. That generally goes from along Mitchell Street from South 5th Street to South 15th Place. And if you're interested, you can find more information from them on mitchellstreet.com. Cesar Chavez Drive bid. So this has historically been the epicenter for the city's Hispanic entrepreneurship community. The flagship store being El Rey. They go along Cesar Chavez Drive from National Avenue to Greenfield Avenue, and their website's located there. And what they've invested a lot of in the past, we've worked with them to create some pop-up spaces for entrepreneurs to pilot their businesses. They've also invested a lot in arts and cultural enhancements that have been part of their goal of creating this as a cultural district as well. So what you'll see in the bottom right corner, you have a statue of the civil rights icon, Cesar Chavez, a leader that focused on many of the rights of farm workers. This, to my knowledge, is the only one in the state. But additionally, as you can see from the photo behind me, they've invested in art that also create some improvements and enhancements to the district that not only beautify it, but also build on that branding, that culture that if you're a Hispanic business, this is the corridor that you want to be in. The last one that I'll mention is the Crisol corridor. So something interesting that we've noted is the Hispanic community has been moving further south into the southern parts of the city as well as the southern suburbs. So that's where we've seen additional growth in the community. Crisol is the Spanish word for melting pot. So this is a community that historically has been Polish, but you have a lot of Hispanic businesses that have moved into the area, restaurants, you have Monterrey Market, clothing stores, but you also have, with that theme of the melting pot, you have Middle Eastern stores, you have Indian stores such as Bombay Sweets, where you have restaurants as well as grocery stores. And it really is this kind of nice international district where you have multiple cultures that are blending. This is along South 13th Street, going predominantly from Cleveland Avenue to Morgan Avenue. They also extend, though, on Oklahoma Avenue to the freeway to about South 11th Street. So you can find more information on grisolcorridor.org. Another thing important to note about these business improvement districts is in many cases they'll have resources that can assist small businesses. So the programs that I mentioned are the city's facade grant, signage. Some of them, for example, the Crisol Corridor will have programs that can overlap with our programs where they'll add additional incentives. Crisol Corridor, for example, has a beautification grant that can be added to our facade grant that they administer themselves. They also have a security grant, so we don't cover security cameras or just lighting projects, but they have a grant that can assist with that. And then when COVID hit, they had some assistance to provide PPE and COVID-related assistance to businesses, as well as marketing to help drive business to those businesses during the pandemic. So, you know, an important thing about thinking of these bids is how they can provide additional resources to small businesses and how they can get them connected to other businesses in the area. The last thing I wanted to mention too is that there's, you know, other resources out there. So the city's programs are really geared at the brick and mortar improvements and investments to businesses and commercial properties in these commercial corridors, but not to lose sight of there's a plethora of options in the city of Milwaukee for assistance for small businesses. So here you'll see a listing of examples of different financing institutions that could potentially work with you as a lender, taking a subordinate position to help kind of mitigate the risk on some of these small business loans. Or in some cases, you know, if you're not able to do it, it might be worth it to refer your client to some of these small CDFIs that really their sweet spot is working with these small businesses. And also there's a lot of technical assistance organizations out there. So just to be conscious of that, we don't help people write business plans. It's kind of out of our field of expertise, but there's many organizations that can either assist them in writing a plan and taking a look at it and enhancing it, or looking at other things such as marketing, accounting, things like that. So I just wanted to make people aware of all the other resources that are in the city of Milwaukee. So that's all I have on our programs and resources. I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has right now.
Thank you, Nathaniel. So I think most people are on mute. So if you have a question and you can unmute, that would be great.
How long does it take for the person to get reimbursed? I know they have to get approved prior to spending the money, but how long does it take after completion?
Yeah, so we typically tell people to allow for 90 days for the reimbursement to occur. Really what it's going to depend on is you know, the paperwork that they turn in. If they're able to do it, you know, in an organized fashion, they have all the materials that they need. We can generally turn that around, you know, before that 90-day period. But, you know, if the person needs a little more assistance, say they may be putting something incomplete in, then our staff can help them to figure out what's still missing and help them to get as much of that money as possible that they've been awarded.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then in relation to the application process as well, so you mentioned the reimbursement. Also thought it was important to note that since our team's been reestablished and reconstituted with sufficient staff, generally the turnaround time in an application once it's been completed is about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on when they submit it. We have a committee that meets once a month. So typically, once their application has been complete, they've done a site visit. They're usually not waiting any longer than 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the timing of when they've completed the application. So we've gotten much better at responding, helping people through the application process, and then getting them a determination so they can start on their work.
Any other questions? I found it really helpful to hear the success stories and just like you talked about the importance of sharing these stories so that individuals in the community know that these grant opportunities are available and they can help, you know, spread the word.
Another question, just an open invitation. I know Nathaniel mentioned that they don't do help with the business plan. Well, we have a class at Woodwick that's coming up on October 5th, and I can put the link down below if you guys want to share it with any of those businesses that need help with their business plan. The class is in Spanish, and I'll put the link down below.
Thank you. That would be great. And I can include that in the notes as well. Any other questions? We normally run around 45 minutes, so I feel like we're about there. But if anyone has any other questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat right now or ask them. And then I will also be sharing out Nathaniel's contact information, and the recording will go up on the website so that you can share this with your colleagues. Our goal is to continue to share this in-depth information and to make more individuals just aware of these great programs and services that all can take advantage of. So I do want to mention that a big change happening next month. We kind of knew, we planned for the Bank Roadshow series and then COVID happened. And so we know banking hours have changed. And so we got some feedback on changing the time for the series. So we're going to try for an 8:30 a.m. time next month. So please save the date for Thursday, October 15th at 8:30 a.m. And so hopefully that will work for more bankers to join us and more of your colleagues in general and community members. Sorry, slightly distracted. So again, thanks to everyone for joining us. Thank you, Nathaniel, for your time and presenting. And then I did forget to mention that next month we will be hearing a featured presentation on LISC. So enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and we'll give you back a little more than 15 minutes. So thank you again.